Welcome to the Savvy Property Investors Podcast, a weekly show that delivers the best hard-hitting property industry news, business advice, and talks that will get you ascending in the real estate industry. Now, here's your host, the amazing award-winning property and business coach, best-selling author, and serial entrepreneur, Miss Sapphire Gray.
And welcome to another Savvy Property Investors Show. Our guest this week is Bryony Morse. She'll be sharing with us how to get a business loan. Bryony is the head of business finance at Funding Track, a leading brokerage which sources unsecured debt and property finance for businesses across the UK. She has extensive experience of working closely with business owners to understand their needs and to source the best finance options for them. With a broad range of lenders and loan products available, Bryony uses her considerable knowledge and expertise to navigate the market on behalf of her clients. The last 2 years have been extremely challenging times for most businesses, but Bryony is passionate about helping them to bounce back and not only survive, but thrive. I'm Sapphire Gray, your host, so let's get started. Bryony, thank you so much for joining us today, and absolutely love your bio and getting sort of like a background into you. You've done exceptionally well. Proud of you.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's dive right in. From your experience, what are the main reasons business owners are applying for finance?
Yeah, sure. So as my bio said, obviously it's been a difficult few years for everyone, but businesses especially with lockdown. So, I'm definitely still feeling businesses are, trying to recover. So a lot of the reason business owners are coming for finance is just to help with cash flow. So overheads, they're being squeezed on all angles really. So, they may have lost their supplier terms, so they have to pay upfront for, materials and stock. So that's a common purpose, business owners are coming for finance. And then they're also impacted by supply chain issues, which, that's come off of the pandemic and issues following Brexit. So, it's really trying to cover, all the costs really involved. And then, a lot of businesses are coming to refinance their debt too. So I don't know if you're aware of the coronavirus business interruption loan scheme that was backed by the government. That was the original government scheme loan, and now it's been replaced by the recovery loan scheme. Okay. So a lot of business owners are coming to refinance their CBILS, that's the acronym, onto the recovery loan scheme. So, those are the main purposes really of finance.
Excellent. And can you talk to us more about your journey in your current position, head of business finance?
Yeah, sure. So, I've been in the industry now for about 5 years. I started sort of as a training ground with a large alternative finance lender, but my sort of main learning really has been as a broker, being able to access all the lenders and products and work closely with businesses. And I think it's been a really positive journey, to be honest. And that's mainly because of the businesses that I've actually worked for. So, on topic with the conversation we're having in Women in Finance, I've been lucky to work for businesses that are incredibly supportive and, they're trying to encourage inclusion and diversity in the workplace, because I'm sure, as you're aware, there's still a big gap in the amount of women in business and finance. So I've been fortunate to have managers that are very supportive and work for businesses that are very supportive, but I know that's not the case in all companies. Of course, there's a lot of work still needs to be done.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with that. You'll find that the glass ceiling is still got glass and it's not been shattered yet. So you'll find that when you do find an employer that is really championing women, it is really it's a rare find, and it's a welcome as well. And they kind of set the precedence and going forward. And there's a lot of companies now trying to do the same thing and looking at women as part of the fold of a company and the ability to help grow a business as well. And not a lot, you won't find a lot of women in the finance realm, and I'm glad to see that you are here and doing a fabulous job at that as well.
Thank you. Yeah, do my best.
You just don't find really good people in it, and when you do, it's like you want to hang on to those people because you think, oh, that's a rare find. So
yeah. Definitely. I think it's a tough one because, we're trying to look, when I was in these other companies and currently, try and look for women to employ, obviously, alongside men. But I think the grassroots issue is that, women aren't seen to be looking for finance, going to finance or business. It seems to still be industries that are reserved for men. I think it's obviously getting better, but more needs to be done, really. So hopefully, we can encourage more women into the industry and leadership positions. And it's all about businesses doing their best to do that as well.
Absolutely. Totally agree. So why would a business owner not go to their own banks for finance?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, a lot has changed over the sort of last 10 years. Business owners used to be able to obviously have a bank manager they can go to, give a call and have monthly meetings. But that's obviously changed now. And I think the long and short is that business owners aren't really sort of supported by their banks anymore. I did read a statistic that I think 37% of business owners look for finance or apply for finance. And of those, the bank rejects 80% of them. Wow. So that really does show, obviously, that they're not supported by banks anymore. But thankfully, over the last 10 years, there's been a huge wealth of products and lenders out there in the alternative finance space, which is really what I predominantly work in. And, there are options out there for business owners. It's just knowing it and finding it. And that's where coming to a broker like myself can be hugely beneficial because obviously, I know about these products and could go out and look for them.
Yeah, that's really useful to know because I remember back in the day I had a business bank manager. We used to even go out for lunch, and that's even unheard of now.
Yeah.
I used to pick my bank manager's lunch for him. We used to light tie and we used to go out. It used to be real fun, meet up, and be able to have that relationship, and that's non-existent now. I mean, most banks are trying to go online. Most banks are coming off the high street. So, being someone like yourself and being able to have that relationship again with someone that's human and not abroad or anywhere else is really, I think it benefits the business more because then you're able to speak about where you are and where you want to be, which makes it a lot easier,
Yeah, definitely. Speak to your broker, but once you have that relationship with a lender that you've managed to, get a loan with, you can go back for top ups, and you're not speaking to a call center. You're actually talking to people that want to help your business. And with the alternative finance market, it's putting pressure on the banks to become more innovative, to actually start helping business owners. And so, there might be a change in the banking sector. I don't know if that'll be a quick change, really. They're quite Stone Age, they're stuck in the past. But there's alternative finance lenders out there that are very much willing to help businesses. Excellent.
So what are the main products available in the market at the moment?
There's a lot of them. I sort of won't go through too much information. We do have information on our funding track website for any that I mentioned. So obviously if people want to look at that, feel free. But I think the main one at the moment would be the recovery loan scheme, as I mentioned previously. So that's backed by the government, meaning that if you're borrowing up to 250,000, the director or directors don't have to sign a personal guarantee. The government is covering that essentially. Above that, there's a partial personal guarantee. So obviously, that's quite attractive to business owners, but it is difficult to really secure. So there's a lot of criteria you have to meet. So sort of outside that, then you've got the working capital loans. They tend to be over a shorter period, or revolving credit facilities. These are really flexible. So you can repay early with no fees or penalties. You can have like a line of credit to draw down on, which is quite popular. Then you've got, merchant cash advance. Now, this is if your business takes a lot of payment on cards or sort of online, you look at e-commerce funding, you can get funding through that kind of product. And then you've got your asset finance and invoice finance. So I don't want to sort of go into too much detail, but that gives a bit of an overview.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
so we just kind of brushed on. So what is the process of getting a business loan?
Yeah. So all the lenders tend to have a similar process. Obviously, once you have an idea of why you need funding, the initial documents you want to try and get is 6 months bank statements and your filed accounts, if you have filed accounts, of course. And then most lenders have portals. I know these portals like the back of my hand, so it can be good to go to a broker just to get that done, because it can take quite a long time. So you've initially submitted your documents and information like why you need the funding. And then you kind of go through the credit model. So hopefully you can pass that initial credit model, and then you're in what we call underwriting. So that's when the underwriter will look more deeply at the application. They might have some questions to clarify on. And, if you're working with a broker like myself, they would come to me and ask those questions. And then, depending on time frame, it could take a few days, 7 days or 14 days, really. You'll get a decision, hopefully an offer. And then you'll be able to know the terms of the offer and decide whether that works for the business.
Excellent. You've given us such great insights so far. So join us after the break with more insights from Bryony.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button below. Our podcast is only made possible by great listeners like you.
And welcome back. So you've really given us some real good insights, and we've kind of looked at how you can get a loan as a business, what business owners need to get in place, sort of the documents, the bank statements and things like that. And you talked us through your journey. So if anything, what would a business owner need to prepare to present themselves well for a business loan then?
Yeah, so I think certainly it's having all the documents required. And this isn't just the sort of minimum documents. So the minimum documents, as I previously mentioned, is usually 6 months bank statements and latest accounts. But why not go sort of the extra mile, really, and have management accounts available? So those are information basically that can pull up-to-date figures. And a lot of lenders, especially in today's market, do want to see that. So, try and have those management accounts available just to give you the best possible chance of the funding you need. I guess having sort of a clear strategy for borrowing as well. So you might think, I'm looking for 100,000, but try to understand really what that's going to and what that's going to bring your business. And you can say that to a broker or lender. So if I get 100,000, this is going to increase my revenue by X, because it's all about feeling comfortable with lending, obviously. So if you can give that extra bit of information as to why it's really going to benefit your business, that's only going to strengthen
so
the
it could be marketing, it could be staffing, it could be machinery, anything that you need to always put it in so they can see a wider picture of what the money is going to be used for. But what is the criteria? I mean, we talked about criteria, but if you was just starting out in business, could you get a loan to support your business as well?
I mean, it's hard with a startup loan, to be honest. Pre-pandemic, it was difficult. It's still hard now. If you're a startup, really, you're probably looking at personal loans. You can get startup loans, but usually you need to be a homeowner, and they will sort of ask for some sort of security, because if you don't have any revenue in the business, and there's no sort of history to go off of, it's difficult. I mean, it's hard for businesses that have been trading a long time to get a loan at the moment. So it's a tough out there for startups at the moment.
Excellent. And what should business owners consider when they are borrowing finance?
So I'd probably say really to consider all of the costs involved. So, obviously business owners will look at the interest rate, but also look at the fees. So lenders will have their own fees, and that can range from, 1% up to 8%, really, depending on the lender, sometimes even more. So, look at that fee. Will that come off of your loan amount? Will that be added to your loan amount? Because obviously that impacts the overall cost. Also, look at the flexibility. So I'd say the majority of alternative finance lenders offer you the option to repay early with no fees or penalties, but some don't. Some also offer the option to make over repayments as well, which can be quite good, just to kind of reduce the overall cost. So that's definitely important. I'd also say consider the credit searches that will be done, because lenders have either soft searches, so that's when it doesn't impact your credit rating, or they'll have hard searches. Now, 1 or 2 hard searches isn't the end of the world, but if you are going to a lot of lenders that do hard searches, they do searches on both the business and the personal credit file. So that's going to really impact you if you're going to, say, 4 or 5 lenders that do hard searches. And that's where it's key to finding the right broker if you do go to them, because I make sure that I do not do that to my client's credit file, but some brokers don't always consider that. So, worth remembering that that's going to happen.
Excellent. So what are some tips that you can offer to business owners when they are applying for finance then?
Yeah, so I think in terms of tips, I'd say one of the biggest issues that I find, or one of the biggest mistakes of businesses, is that they don't come for finance at the right time. Now, I do appreciate you can't always foresee you needing finance. Sometimes, I need a quick bill I need to pay. But, if you're applying for finance when the cash flow in your bank statement is tight, obviously that's going to impact your application. Lenders might feel a bit less likely to offer. If you're using, for example, cash flow management tools, you can actually look at your cash flow and it can forecast when you may need to come for funding. So I'd say a tip there is to actually use those kind of tools. I know they cost a bit extra for your business, but if you think about the wider scale, if you can actually get better funding and not be declined because you came a month earlier, that's the difference between a decline or an offer for some businesses, right? So I'd say that's definitely a tip. The next tip really is to shop around and look for your options. So, if you're going to one lender only, you might have been able to get a better offer or product elsewhere. Either do the research yourself or just go to a broker who will be able to go to multiple lenders, and at least then that you've shopped around, and if you get a few declines but one offer, you can be certain that actually you've tried other lenders. So I think a tip is shop around and make sure that you're looking for the best offer.
I always say that go whole of market, and that's why I say it doesn't matter whether you're spending on using a broker facilities. They can source whole of market. It's not just your local banks or anything like that. They've got a plethora of lenders that could be suited to your financial situation as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, it's all about speaking to a broker as well about the product, because you might have business owners that are used to getting a traditional 5-year loan, for example, and that might not actually be the best product for your loan purpose. So if you're looking to purchase some stock, for example, you're always needing to have a line of credit. Rather than getting a traditional 5-year loan, which will pay out 100,000 straight away, why not get 100,000 line of credit, and you can sort of draw down from it as and when you need for your stock purpose. So having that conversation with a broker will be able to they can advise you and say, well, actually, have you thought about this product?
True.
Yeah.
True. That's very true. And what do you feel the best leading market will look like in the future, or lending market would look like in the future?
It's hard to say, right? I mean, we're still experiencing, we're still in the pandemic, aren't we? So I would definitely say it's improved in terms of businesses feeling more confident to borrow, and the alternative finance lending market wanting to lend. So I have a sort of trying to be positive, I suppose, but obviously we don't know what's around the corner. So we don't know how lenders' underwriting criteria will change. It'll be interesting to see when the recovery loan scheme ends, which is the government-backed scheme. It'll be interesting to see how these lenders providing it, what their underwriting criteria looks like, what their appetite is for lending. But hopefully, there won't be any further lockdowns, and we've got to recover. We've got to carry on. We've got to support businesses, right? So absolutely. I would like to say I'm cautiously optimistic about the lending market.
Excellent. So what advice could you give to women who want to get into the financial/business sector, but has reservations about being taken seriously?
Yeah. So that is an interesting question. I I think there's a lot of people, no matter your sort of gender, that is worried about being taken seriously. But I do think that women feel it more acutely, right? It's kind of imposter syndrome. And I suppose the reason for that is the finance and business sector has been really dominated by males, still is. And so the characteristics and what success looks like has been molded by men. So I can understand, and I've certainly felt imposter syndrome before. But I think the biggest advice I can give is just to really believe in your ability. Because if you've worked really hard and you know your stuff, don't let imposter syndrome impact, your desire to get into the market or be successful in the market. And, I think when it comes to getting into the market and looking for businesses or companies to join, I think just do some research. What are they doing to encourage inclusivity and diversity? And don't be afraid to ask that in interviews. I certainly have in the past asked in interviews, what are they doing and what's their percentage of women in leadership? What are they doing to encourage women in these positions? And hopefully if they are being active, you don't have to worry about being taken seriously.
True. And I think that's the key thing you said, is about asking questions. Don't sort of sit in the background. Ask the questions that you want answered. And go to the people that are willing to answer those questions, and then move yourself through the pack that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Thank you so much for sharing all these lovely gems and insights into what you do and how Funding Track can also help women and also help people in business to get finance.
Thank you.
Where can our listeners get hold of you and utilize your services?
Yeah, sure. So obviously go on our Funding Track website, but if my email directly is bryony.morse@fundingtrack.com. You just look on the Spotify or the playlist to see my name spelling, because people tend to spell that wrong. And then if they want my direct number, it's 07843 181 707.
Brilliant. You heard it here first. Go over and speak to Bryony. She's really good on funding, and see where you lay as a woman to try and get into the finance sector as well, or business sector. I'd love to hear your feedback, and I'm sure we all would love to hear your feedback as a woman. And as a man, if you need in business finance, please head over to Funding Track's website, where you will be able to plug in those figures and get some decisions made for your business. Thank you, listeners, for sharing this time with me today on the Savvy Property Investors Show. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, download, and definitely share. We'll see you next week with another topic. We look forward to always sharing insights from the Savvy Property Investors Show.
This week's episode of the Savvy Property Investors Podcast was brought to you by our sponsor, the Savvy Women Group. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, head over to our website, www.savvywomen.co.uk, to gain access to our free resources and more insights about our guest speaker today. Remember, we make your business our business, so you can unlock your full potential and improve your quality of life.